Hello everyone. We warmly welcome you to Pascal Citation Channel. For those who are visiting Pascal for the first time, there are some notable differences. The channel will be regularly released every evening. All of these things are based on one root cause, which is being overly concerned about what others think of us. We become reliant on the evaluations of others, thinking that we should act in certain ways to please them. I have mentioned this topic in previous episodes, but it is an important one. The main spirit of my podcasts is to share the lessons I wish I had heard when I was younger, around 18 to 20 years old. Today's topic is one of those valuable lessons. If I had the chance to go back in time, I would definitely share this lesson with my younger self. Therefore, even though I have mentioned it a few times before, I am determined to devote a separate episode to discuss it in detail. I will divide my talk into 5 main points and a few small notes. These 5 points represent the main reasons why I believe that constantly worrying about what others think has a serious impact on our lives and hinders our ability to simplify aspects of our lives and make them more enjoyable and fulfilling. The first reason is that it is a futile endeavor. What others think resides solely in their minds, and we have no way of knowing exactly what they are thinking. Our brains constantly analyze and present us with different results. For example, let's say you are preparing for a presentation at work. Initially, you plan to deliver it in a gentle and concise manner, and you start preparing the content accordingly. But halfway through, you suddenly think that others might perceive you as lacking confidence. So you decide to revise your presentation to include humorous elements. The end result is a mishmash of different styles, while the most important aspect of your presentation, confidence in the content you are delivering, gets overshadowed. The key to a successful presentation lies in having confidence in the content you are conveying, and this confidence can only be achieved when you are your authentic self. If you constantly worry about what others think and try to change yourself accordingly, you will never be true to your own identity. It will erode your self-confidence. Some people ask me why I don't choose a more humorous or enthusiastic speaking style like other YouTube channels. The simple reason is that it's not me. When you listen to me speaking on this YouTube channel, that's who I am. I am not an excessively humorous person, and I speak in a deliberate and measured manner. The results so far have shown that many people enjoy listening to me in this style. If I were to force myself to adopt a different style just to please others, firstly, it wouldn't be authentic, and secondly, it would be exhausting to sustain that persona. Moreover, sooner or later, people would sense that it's not the real me. This is why if we constantly worry about what others think, always fearing their judgments, we will be perpetually twisting and turning, and ultimately, we won't be able to accomplish anything substantial. The second reason is that we are giving away the control of our own lives to others when we care too much about their opinions. When we constantly pay attention to what others say, we are essentially allowing them to control our emotions. For instance, in the morning, when we step out onto the street and someone gives us a disapproving look, we also become uncomfortable. Then at work, if we hear someone speaking ill of us, we become angry for the whole morning. Later, if we receive praise from our boss, Kang, and get to go out for lunch, but he doesn't invite us, we feel resentful. In this case, it's evident that we are completely allowing others to control our emotions. If they press button A, we feel happy. If they press button B, we feel sad. If they press button C, we feel annoyed. And if we continue like this for a few days, we are allowing others to control our emotions. In a few years, we are allowing others to control our lives. And after many years, we are completely surrendering our lives to others. We must remember that our life is our own. It should be controlled by us through our own choices and actions. Even if we make mistakes, it's still better to have control over our own lives than to give someone else the power to decide where we go. To achieve that, we need to gradually reduce our level of concern for others and only focus on what truly matters. Similarly, in the example above, if we step into an elevator and encounter someone giving us a hateful look, we can simply put on our headphones and listen to our favorite music, disregarding the neighbor's gaze. We don't need to be bothered by their opinion. as it may not necessarily reflect their true feelings towards us. When we arrive at work, we shouldn't pay attention to random gossip or let it affect us. Even if we don't hear it directly, if it somehow comes to our attention, we should let it go. The negative things others say about us belong to them, and whether we get upset or not is our own choice. If we adopt this mindset, we will live a more comfortable life. This leads me to the third point, which is about what the world does, says, or thinks. As I mentioned before in the discussion about expectations, there are things we can control and things we cannot control. We should focus on what we can control. Similarly, in this aspect, we cannot control what others think of us, whether they like or dislike us, or what they say about us. We simply cannot police those things. What we can control is our attitude towards those things, how we choose to respond. We can choose to get upset and annoyed, or we can choose to let it go and continue living happily with our own lives. The fourth point is that it will lead us to follow conventional paths when we care too much about what others think. If you constantly concern yourself with other people's opinions, you will gradually become a tool that conforms to the majority. Let me explain why I say this. If you keep jumping from one task to another just to fit in with the popular viewpoint, then you are living a life dictated by the expectations and judgments of others, not your own. In a previous discussion, I mentioned a German philosopher named Diminishes, who conducted a fascinating study called Master Lens Laborious. In this study, he analyzed the behavior of two groups of people, the ruling class and the slaves. The ruling class consisted of those who created rules and dominated the lower class individuals. The slaves, on the other hand, were the ones who obeyed the ruling class. Interestingly, the slaves did not enjoy being subservient, but instead of striving to break free from their circumstances, they tended to pull others down to their level. When we find ourselves in the same group as them, they expect us to behave in the same way they do. They want us to conform to their obedience. If we have a different mindset or take different actions, they will criticize us for doing something wrong, regardless of the actual nature of our actions. They even have their own customs, and if we refuse to adhere to those customs, we may be seen as a dangerous element within their community. Please note that this is a serious psychological study, not a subjective statement. The root cause of this behavior lies in the fact that individuals in this group tend to fear the unknown. They are afraid of anything new and unfamiliar within their community. Those who conform to their customs are considered to have good morals, while those who live true to their own nature but deviate from their common behavior are seen as potentially dangerous individuals. We can see that this is a study conducted by a philosopher hundreds of years ago, but it still holds true in today's society, especially in the current social context in Vietnam. In his research, Diminishes gave us advice, not to become a master or a slave. Instead, we should break free from those systems and live authentically. Personally, I have always lived by a simple principle: to do whatever brings happiness to myself as long as it doesn't harm others. Adding the clause "as long as it doesn't harm others" helps us filter out actions that bring us happiness but harm others. For example, engaging in illegal drug trafficking may bring profit and a prosperous life to us, but it destroys the lives of others. Therefore, we should not care about what others think. Let's do whatever brings us happiness as long as it doesn't harm others. Part 5 will allow us to live freely according to our own will. This is also a continuation of the previous point, where we no longer care about what others think of us. Gradually, we start to ask ourselves why. Only when we ask why can we seek answers for ourselves instead of following the ready-made answers of others. From there, we can live a life that we truly control. There was one time when I went to celebrate Tet in northern Vietnam. During the party, I noticed that men were seated at separate tables and women were seated at separate tables. Perhaps it was because their conversation topics were different, so sitting together might not be appropriate. This is my attempt to explain the reason behind it. However, it was only after the meal that something worth mentioning happened. After finishing the meal, all the men were invited to go outside to have drinks and talk, while the task of cleaning up the dishes and utensils was taken care of by the women. According to the customary practice, after eating, I stood up and went to the kitchen, assuming that the women would say, "No, you go outside and have a drink. We'll take care of the kitchen." This is a very typical example that I think many of us have encountered during Tet, or if it no longer exists now, I would be very happy. But in the past, it was like that. In fact, it wasn't that long ago, just about 5 or 10 years ago. I will try not to make any judgments about both genders, whether it's the male or female group in this particular school. The reason I want to mention this example is to illustrate the point I made earlier. Now let's assume I am a person in that group of women. Because I don't care about how others perceive me as lazy, disrespectful of traditions, or culturally lost, those are preconceived notions that I don't concern myself with. When I no longer care about those things, I can ask very simple questions like, why do we all eat together but not clean together? Or why don't we utilize 100% of the workforce there to clean up faster? And then everyone can continue playing together. And then, for example, if someone answers that it's because cooking and kitchen work are traditionally seen as tasks for women, we need to ask ourselves why. If all of us, including myself and the men here, start asking why, then we can identify the inconsistencies in the things we consider as defaults. As I mentioned in a previous example, those are rules established from ancient times. They might have made sense in their historical context, but society is constantly changing. If we don't continuously ask why to see what is still relevant, what needs to be discarded, and what requires updating, our society will stagnate. That's a small example of why, when we disregard what others think, we can ask straightforward questions that go to the root of the problem. From there, we can choose the appropriate path for our lives. These are the 5 reasons why I believe that constantly caring about what others think can significantly impact our lives. However, alongside that, there are common misconceptions. Many people think that if we don't care about what others think, it means we don't care about them. They assume that we become indifferent or even heartless. But in reality, these are 2 completely different things. I am willing to listen and help someone if they need assistance within my capabilities. However, I don't care about how they judge my way of living. I don't care about what they think, especially their opinions about me, whether positive or negative. For example, when I work with my subordinates, I always pay attention to their thoughts and emotions. I care about whether they feel comfortable in their work or if there are any issues that require my support. However, I do these things because of my genuine concern for my employees, based on the responsibility I have set for myself in relation to my subordinates. I don't do it to gain their approval or to maintain a certain image of myself. I don't seek their favor in order for them to speak positively about me to others. When I think about it carefully, these are the true lessons to be learned here. We care because it's our inherent nature to care, and that is valuable. This is a small example of not caring about what others think, and it is distinct from being indifferent. The last thing I want to share is that not caring does not mean we allow others to litter our home. The most prominent example of this is when I started this YouTube channel. In the past, on various social media platforms, I did not enable public comments. On this YouTube channel, it is the only place where I allow comments. I made this decision because if I disable comments, YouTube's algorithm will not recommend my content to new audiences. By enabling comments, I aim to engage with the majority of viewers who are well-mannered individuals. Fortunately, most of the comments I receive are polite. However, as the channel grows and attracts more viewers, it is inevitable that there will be occasional disrespectful or irrelevant comments. In these examples, it is clear that we don't care about such comments. But not caring doesn't mean we allow anyone to litter our home. We must clean up to keep our house tidy and welcoming to others. That is a small example of how we disregard what others think. It can apply to opinions or thoughts within their own lives. However, when it starts affecting our lives, we must take action to clean up the mess. Before concluding, I have a small note based on previous episodes. I want to emphasize that my perspectives may differ from the majority, and I share these viewpoints as my personal opinions. The postcard activities I engage in are what I give, and due to limited time availability, I can only allocate a certain amount of time to this. Therefore, I do not have time for extensive debates on different perspectives, nor do I wish to engage in such discussions. Now, please take these shares from the perspective of adding an additional viewpoint. Accept what resonates with you and feel free to express appreciation if you find value in it. If you find it uninteresting, you can simply disregard it, in line with the spirit of this conversation. I have no intention to engage in back and forth debates. Hence, I kindly request not to receive comments of that nature. That covers all the points I wanted to share with you in today's episodes. If you find these insights helpful, please share them with your friends and loved ones. Additionally, as usual, due to YouTube's algorithms prioritizing videos with more likes and comments, if you enjoy this video, please consider clicking the like button and leaving a comment to help Pascal reach a wider audience. Thank you for your continued support, and I wish you a pleasant weekend evening with your loved ones and family.